Hi guys, it's Saturday morning and no, we're not aboard the boat. I'm waiting for a store over here to open so that I can pick up a few things we need for other projects aboard the boat this weekend. Once we're back aboard the boat, we should be able to get one step further with the v-berth project. Now I had hoped to be able to get 2 steps further this weekend, but that's not gonna happen, and we'll get to why in the end of this video. But it actually looks like that place is just about to open, so let's head on over there. Luckily, not everything you need for a project aboard a boat has to be bought at a super expensive marine store. But let's hurry on down to the boat and get started. Well, things are just as messy down here below as I left them last weekend, which is not all that weird considering nobody's been aboard the boat, so yeah. But let's get started. Welcome to what by now hopefully seems very familiar, the v-berth aboard Obelix. As you guys probably recall, in the previous video we painted the stringers to make them look nice, so now we're ready to put up insulation. A good while back I received a comment suggesting that I should try using paper for making templates for whenever I need to cut out insulation. So let's give that a try. Let's go cut a piece of foam insulation to see how good of a job I've done on this template. That is a very snug fit. So snug in fact that I'll have to trim it back just a little bit. It's too tight. Now that this piece fits, I'll mark it. S for starboard and 1, 2, 3, 3 because it's the third piece starting from the bow of the boat, and that's up. Doing that first piece took almost 20 minutes, so I certainly hope that we can pick up the pace a little bit. I've made templates for the entire starboard side of the boat and my technique has improved a lot. Now it only takes like 4 or 5 minutes to do one of these sections, so that's a lot better than 20 minutes. And I'll show you that technique once we move on to the port side of the boat. But the next step will be to cut some foam to actually check that these templates are accurate enough. The v-berth is actually sort of the biggest horizontal surface I've got aboard the boat, so it's probably easiest for me to cut the foam up here. That's a good fit. I have all of the grey pieces of insulation cut for the starboard side of the boat, and they appear to fit fine. So let's go ahead and cut some of the white pieces to see if we can get those to fit too. I've cut all of the pieces of insulation that I need to complete the starboard side of the boat, but I won't actually be able to complete the entire side of the boat today because I just remembered that I need to paint the tiny bulkhead behind me, and that's certainly a lot easier to do without the insulation there. So what I'll do is I'll finish the both sides of the boat with the exception of the very last pieces. And then before leaving the boat today, I'll paint that tiny bulkhead. That way tomorrow when I get back aboard the boat, I'll be able to put up the last of the insulation. As for glue, I've chosen to go with the Scotchwell 74. And like I mentioned in one of my previous videos, this stuff is so much easier to work with than this Casco Flex stuff. If you haven't seen that video, go back and check out my tiny logger insulation video. There's a link down below. Now my only concern about using this isn't the adhesive bond between the insulation and hull, because I tested that last week and that's perfectly fine. My concern was the fact that this stuff, you roll it on, right? So this takes care of some of the minor low spots there are on the hull, because the fiberglass in some areas is quite coarse, and this stuff won't do that. So when using this, I'll just have to make sure that I press in really good on that insulation to make sure that I don't get any pockets of air. When I say low spots, it's not these big areas right here that I'm concerned with. Those are going to be perfectly fine. It's more the texture of the coarse fiberglass that creates these very localized low spots. They're not very deep, but they are there. But yeah, I think it's going to be fine. Now before we start spraying glue everywhere, let's just mask off the stringers to minimize the cleanup work we'll have to do afterwards. Due to the fact that this stuff still adheres up to 10 minutes after you've sprayed it on, I'm just going to cover this next area too. That's the first layer of insulation on there. Now we just need to apply the white outer layer. I got kind of carried away there putting up that gray foam, because one of the advantages of using this stuff is that you can spray a tiny area, adhere your foam, then spray another tiny area, and well, instead I just sprayed everything, and that gets a bit chaotic. So let's revert to the good old way of just spraying a tiny area at the time. Oh, and the reason why I'm peeling back the masking tape is that the bit of overspray that's on there adheres to the foam, so that makes lining everything up a lot more difficult. So let's just get that out of the way. I figured out that when I apply the white layer of insulation from the bottom and going up, I can just go ahead and spray the entire surface at once. Well, this can is empty, but I've got 3 more, and I used up most of this on the tiny locker, so I should have enough. Okay, well, the starboard side is done, or as much of it as I can do today anyways. Once I get those mahogany slats mounted, I'm sure that's gonna look pretty awesome. I was almost done making templates for the port side of the boat, but then I remembered that I wanted to show you guys the easiest way I've figured out of making them. I'm sure there's a better way, but this is the easiest way I've figured out so far. First step is to measure the distance between the stringers. Now, this doesn't need to be exact, it's just a rough measurement. Then we need to grab a piece of paper, and that piece of paper needs to be slightly bigger than the area between the stringers. Next step is to line up the paper. I want to make sure that the top part of the paper is aligned with the deck. Then I put a crease in the paper where the paper meets the stringers. I also put a crease in the paper where it meets the bunk. Now I have sort of the rough outline of the template, but going by what I've experienced with the other pieces, this isn't going to be accurate enough, so we'll need to do a bit of trimming. We grab a Sharpie, run that down the creases of the paper. Don't trim all of the excess at the bottom of the template yet. That's what makes sure that the template stays up there. Then we grab some sort of spacer and the Sharpie. We use that to trace the outline of the stringer. Then we cut along the line we just traced with the Sharpie and that spacer. Now we can trim the forward edge of this template because we don't need that. We still need to trace the outline of this stringer. For that I'll cut a piece of paper, and this is of course going to be really jagged, but that's okay. Make sure that this little piece of paper sits flush against the hole. Grab the spacer and the Sharpie and trace the outline of the stringer. Trim this excess, we don't need that. Grab some tape and tape this tiny piece onto the rest of the template. The final step is to trim the bottom of the template. That's a perfect fit. I managed to get the grey insulation to adhere to the port side of the boat, but I'm running out of time. I need to get back home to Jökull, so I'm gonna hurry up and slap some paint on the tiny bulkhead. Okay, let's haul ass back to the house. In the beginning of this video I promised you guys the story of why I was only able to put up insulation this weekend and not start to cut the mahogany pieces to length. But we'll get to that once I'm back at the house. Oh man, this has been such a long day. I figured it would take me somewhere around 4 or 5 hours to put up all of the insulation, and it's been an entire day now and I'm not even done yet. Jeez. Anyway, I promised you guys the story of why I'm only able to do one step towards finishing the v-berth project aboard the boat this weekend instead of doing 2 steps. First, I should probably explain that by saying 1 step, I mean putting up all of the insulation, like I'm doing. By saying 2 steps, which was what I was hoping to do, that would have been to test fit all of the mahogany slats and also to put up insulation. And there's actually a good reason why I wanted to do the 2-step version this weekend, because now that I've kind of been forced to do the 1-step version, something is gonna come back and bite me in the ass next weekend, but you'll see. Anyway, I had placed an order for all the mahogany I need, which is 38 pieces of 2.4 meters each. But somewhere, someone messed up, because someone figured that, oh, okay, so he wants 38 times 2.4 meters worth of mahogany. Oh, well, we'll just send him some 3.9 meter slats, which are basically useless to me because I can't really join them anywhere because of the gap between the stringers, right? So, and I'm not gonna bother with doing scarf joints or whatever. That's not what I paid for. So I got kind of pissed off and I started complaining. And apparently that pays off, because now they're giving me the 3.9 meter slats for the price of the 2.4 meter slats. So that means I'm getting a buttload of mahogany for free. Okay, well, hopefully next weekend aboard the boat we'll be able to trim those mahogany slats, and that'll look awesome. Yeah, I better go take Jökull for a walk, so I guess that's it for this video, guys. See you! Jökull and I hope you've enjoyed this video. To be notified about new content, please click subscribe. If you're new to the channel, I suggest you check out the introduction playlist. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and feel free to leave a comment.